unmanaged stress can lead to a lot of different conditions. And ultimately, it can lead to like having a stroke, it can lead to having a heart attack, just hypertension over time. It can actually lead to diabetes too. People may not know that, like that direct correlation. But there's a lot of conditions that come from not managing your stress.
All right. So, if you are a Black woman and you are managing stress, if you've had headaches lately, if it feels like you've randomly just gained a lot of weight, you got an eye twitch and you can't figure out what's going on, like all of these things are symptoms of stress. And we tend to feel like it's us getting older. But actually, if we just got some key practices on how to help us manage our stress, a lot of things would change. So that's what we're talking about today. If that's you, welcome. So I'm really excited about this conversation. It is one in a series of conversations where we're talking about Black girl depression, how it shows up differently for us, and the ways that we can manage it and heal and move out of our depression and back into thriving. So this particular video is about giving us practical steps to manage our stress without feeling like we have to, without putting ourselves deeper into Black girl depression, meaning that we're not getting ourselves into this place of feeling like we have to do more. And then also without having to be the strong Black woman where we feel like we have to ignore everything and just bulldoze our way through. Like those are two different extremes that we can find the happy medium to. And so I have an amazing guest here. Jessica is here to help me talk through that, to talk about what it looks for like for us to create that happy medium rather than swinging from one pendulum to the other. So welcome, Jessica. So happy to have you here.
Thanks so much. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. So before we get started, tell everybody like what do you do, and what gets you passionate about what you do.
Yeah, so first and foremost, I'm a therapist. I work virtually in New York with my clients, and that tends to be adults, professionals, entrepreneurs, people that are early in their careers. So a lot of managing stress and also anxiety, depression, things like that. And I also do coaching, not life coaching, but more so like mental health coaching and dealing with just navigating work and having goals. So that's something else that I do as well.
Yes, I love it. I love it. I love that you made that distinction. So, how would you describe the difference between life coaching? Because life coaching is like my bucket, but I love that you said I am that you are passionate about, mental health coaching. How do you describe the difference between the two?
Definitely. So, I mean, life coaching I think is very broad,
Hmm.
but mental health coaching I would say can be more specific to like a specific condition.
Yeah.
Like one common one would be ADHD. And
Mm,
just all that that brings up and how to navigate work, how to navigate life even with that specific mental health condition.
yeah. Oh, that makes a
Yeah,
lot of sense. And I agree. If when finding a life coach, I think that people have to have a better idea of what specific realm of life that they want to be working with a coach with, because it does make a difference. So I appreciate that a lot. Okay, so then now when we're thinking about today, and I know you specialize in anxiety, and I love talking about how that plays into the strong Black woman trope and how we're trying to stop doing that, but how we have to deal with our anxiety in order to be able to make that shift. So all of that to say, what would you say is the biggest misconception that us Black women tend to have around stress in general?
I would simply say like that we don't have time for that. There's
Mm.
no time for us to be stressed out and stress who basically where it's like, yeah, we might know that we're stressed out and like say that to our friends or family, but in actuality, we're not paying attention to that. We're just pushing through like you said.
Mm.
That's the biggest thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I that we just I love that. We don't have time for that. We don't. We think we could just keep bulldozing our way, bulldozing like literally go, go, go. And then all of a sudden we laid out on the floor. We don't know how we got here.
So, yeah.
Girl, we got here because exactly what you said, we don't stop to acknowledge it. And it's such a big thing that we have to create awareness around. You created some amazing posts on your blog around um stress awareness month. Like what is the most, I would say, like what was the biggest thing that you were like, I hope people get out of this. I hope black women get out of this when it comes to stress awareness.
Mhm. Right, just one, that it's a real thing, and two, it's something to pay attention to. We
Mm,
can't afford to overlook it and to just put it to the side. We need to look at it as something that's just a part of life. We
mhm,
have very demanding lives. I'd say most people can relate to that,
yeah.
and it has to just be a part of your everyday practice.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I the idea that you're not failing if you're stressed. I think that we have that misconception that if we're stressed out, then we're not doing something right. If we're stressed out, then we're behind in life. And I don't think any of those things are true. You can be doing so many things right. You can be loving on people well. Like you can be doing all of these things and still be stressed out because we haven't figured out how to really settle into just being rather than pushing ourselves to do all the time. At least that's how it comes up for me.
Right, and to add to that, I would just say, like, there's a hidden, like, a secrecy to it where it's just
Mhm,
like, I'm stressed out, but no one else is stressed out because everyone is pretending that they're fine, and I
mhm,
think that adds to it too, where it's just like the superwoman, super black woman, right,
mm,
trope. It's like, well, she's still pushing, like, I have to do better. Something's wrong with me if I'm also not able to keep up.
yeah,
So that's the other thing.
yeah. That whole keep up thing, man. I'm so that phrase "keeping up with the Jones," while it is so relatable, I'm a Jones. I don't even know who the Joneses are. Like, can we, because I don't have time or space for the Joneses no more. Okay.
Right.
It's a huge thing, and like you said, I think we're coming to a place where we're getting better at saying, "I'm not okay.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
I'm not okay," and I'm gonna pause and say right here, I am one of those people that I am not okay. Just because I have a YouTube channel where I talk about, quit being a strong black woman, letting go of these tropes. It is a journey that I'm on, and I am not perfect. I have not figured it out. I have days where I cry all day long. I and I'm still figuring out how to keep moving forward. And I think that's another thing that we get with the misconception of stress. Um, some of our other race counterparts, the security that they have when things are not okay, they get to shut down.
Yeah. Mhm.
And we don't have the space to shut down. So while I say I am not okay, I also have to be honest with myself and say I also can't just shut down either. And I think once we get to a space where we can acknowledge that both of those things can be true and both of those things can be happening at the same time, then we actually can find a space. That is how I have found my space of healing. That I can recognize I have both happening and if I try to cope with it by making myself do more, I'm making it worse rather than making it better. And that's why this conversation is so important to me because I think it's not about doing more, it's about finding those practical ways to manage our stress in a way that allows us to acknowledge that we're not okay and that we also know that we can't just curl up in a ball and not do anything.
Although there are points in time where if you don't choose to do that, your body will force you to do that, and that's, like, going into burnout and
Mhm.
all that comes with that. So, we do need to make time to sit down, and if that looks like curling up in a ball for a little while, then doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's just say, I'm not saying that I don't ever curl up in a ball. Stop playing. First of all, curling up in a ball is quite comforting. It's
Yes.
it's something about being able to be in our whole space. I think what I'm saying is in my space of not being able to shut down. I think shutting down is something different than taking the time and the space to care for ourselves. I'm not even sure that shutting down, and you can have a different perspective on this. I'm not sure that I believe shutting down is actually helpful,
Mm,
because if I shut down my emotions and I try to avoid addressing them, try avoid making space for them, am I actually really setting myself up to manage or to
mm,
address the stress at all, you know? Where I think
mm.
as curling up in a ball, sometimes that is the exact epitome of allowing myself to feel all the things that I have been feeling, at least for me. So I don't know, what would you say when it comes to that?
Yeah. So it might be just a difference in perspective. When I hear shutting down, I think more someone is at their capacity and maybe they just can't handle anymore,
Mhm.
or it could be just they don't have the coping skills to
Mhm.
navigate something.
Mhm.
So either way, I feel like that's a time to tap self-compassion,
Mhm.
really, truly, because I think it's just reached that point.
Yeah. I received that. I received that. So receive that in saying that while we even right now, I'm saying that I'm feeling like there's not a space for me to even shut down in that way. You're even saying, but maybe there is.
Yeah,
You
and
know?
that's where either therapy or, like, mental health coaching can help, where
Mhm.
it's, like, that outside perspective, like,
Mhm.
one with therapy is more like the inner work and seeing, like, where things developed and what is contributing to what's happening now, but also, like, with coaching, it's more like, what patterns are happening that you're not maybe, like, seeing and
Mhm.
that we can, like, make an adjustment with.
Yeah.
Um, for example, like, I might help a client where it's like, I have no downtime. I have no time to take a breath, but it's like, "Well, wait, what about that 30 minutes that you're commuting?" Or like, "What about this?" And it's like, "Oh, yeah, like, I could do a meditation then, or I could call my mom or my sister," and, like, that's something that helps calm me down. So, having that outside perspective can help with that too.
Yes, I agree with that. For regardless of whether it's coaching or therapy, I think every single person needs a team. Another person that's devoted to their well-being, and not that our friends are not devoted to our well-being, but they're attached to it in a different way than a
Yep.
coach or a therapist is. There that coach or therapist is coming in specifically based on what you're trying to achieve, not attached to what the outcome is because it affects us. You know what I mean? And so we need that outside perspective, that team that can help us uh navigate and find our way through a lot of the things that are coming up without it being attached to our family or the other parts of other roles that we have to manage, you know?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's where some of the pressure can come from as well, if we're being honest.
Hmm.
The roles that we play in other people's lives that, loved ones, and it's not anyone's fault, but it can be real where it's just like, well, I need you to do this, or they need you to show up in a certain way. So sometimes you feel guilty talking to them about certain things you're experiencing, or it's like, I need a break, but ooh, how will they feel about that? So having that unbiased outside person as well helps with that.
It does. It makes such a difference. Such a difference. It's huge. Okay, so now in addition to having that outside perspective, what are three ways that Black women, especially dealing with the symptoms and the manifestation of our stress, what are three ways that we can manage that without, like I said, uh getting to the point where we're depressed and cannot manage, or being so strong that we're ignoring the fact that we need to manage it. Like, what is that in between? What are three ways, three coping mechanisms in between that can help us walk that fine line?
Mhm. Yeah, so I'll address first like the strong black woman where it's like asking for help feels like too much at this
Mm-hmm.
point because
Mm-hmm.
that's a mindset shift. So I
Yeah.
would say it would be okay. So self-care is something that I'm pretty big on,
Mm.
and I think self-care gets misconstrued as just being the spa or the bubble bath.
Right, right.
But I think that could be a good first step. Like,
Hmm.
if asking for help is just that's not where you are yet, then make some time, book that spa appointment or
Yeah.
get your nails done or that relaxation physically can, I think, make a difference, be really helpful.
Yeah, I love that. I do something similar with my clients because, I mean, the other thing about our stress, a lot of times our stress comes also from our finances. And so,
Mm,
if you had the financial capacity to go do a massage every week or to go get your nails done every week, you probably would be doing it already, right?
yeah.
Because we
Mhm.
love those things. We don't need
Yeah.
to be convinced that those things are care for us. Instead, we have to find other ways that provide care and help us feel cared for and caring for ourselves that don't necessarily break our budget, because otherwise we end up not doing it. And so
Mhm.
one of the things that I help my clients with as a coach is what's just one thing you could do for 5 minutes a day, and we build up from 5 minutes. But a lot of
Mhm.
times even getting them to just do 5 minutes a day is like, wait, what?
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean? So we start with something simple, 5 minutes a day. Like, I had one client that she used to really love music. And not even that she used to, she loves music, but as a mom and all of the different roles that she's transitioned to over the years, music was just not something that she set aside to enjoy like she used to. It was always like, it was either just silence because she just hadn't had silence in a while, but no space actually set aside for that. And so what she would do, we started with just 5 minutes 3 times a day because 5 minutes every day was too much. And I say this example to give us space to recognize managing stress. You don't go from 0 to 100. You don't
No.
go from extremely stressed to completely managed. Like, we wish that it looked like that, but it does not look like that
Right.
at all. And so she started with
Mhm.
5 minutes 3 times a week where she just played a CD that, or it's not a CD anymore, it's an album, because we don't have CDs anymore. That ages me, but whatever. But just played an album where she got to listen to one or two songs. Just just for five, maybe 10 minutes, just for herself, without her daughter, her headphones in, can't hear anybody else. The D&D is on, just space for that. So I love that when you're saying, it doesn't have to the when you said it was, self-care gets just the idea of, taking care, doing our nails and stuff, and trying to find these other ways in between that also allow us to have care for ourselves as well. Other things that bring about who we are and what we love, and get to experience that without having to rush off to do something else. Okay.
Right.
So if that was one, what are a couple other ones that people can lean into?
Right. So another one is just finding the small moments in your day or your week and fitting in, like you had mentioned, music was one client's passion, like finding the things that you love. And that could look like, do you like reading? So
Mhm.
definitely escaping in a good book is one. Or if it's just going for a walk with a friend, like, hey, can we after work meet up and go for a walk? It
Mhm.
doesn't always have to cost money either.
Mhm.
And sometimes I get pushback on that. But yeah, like it can be free. It can
Yeah.
be just daydreaming on your balcony or your backyard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. Exactly. And those are the things that I try to get people to make a list of. So, like on Fridays, when we do our Freedom Fridays, in the worksheet, one of the pages is create a list of fun things that you like to do, create a list of restful things that you like to do, especially because if you're an extrovert, your extrovert activities will look restful extrovert activities will look different than your restful introvert activities, like thinking through those things and making a list, because when we're stressed out we're like, wait, what do I do to rest?
Right, you can't wait until that point. You have to know
'Cause-
ahead of time.
right, because by that time it's too late, and then we're like, well, wait, what am I supposed to do right now? And we get stressed out about the fact that we're supposed to be taking a break and we don't end up resting. Crazy how that cycle works. So I help
Mhm.
us to make that list so that when we get to that space and we have time, maybe we finish something early, or maybe we just schedule time to have
Mhm.
more rest and fun. Then we have a
Yeah.
list to refer back to, and we're like, oh, yes, I do remember that I like to lay in a hammock, or I do remember that I like to daydream, or I do know that I've been wanting to read this book. I don't even have to read all of it. I could just read a couple pages, then we have
That
something to rely back to, I love it. I love it. Okay. I love that. So good. Okay. So then that was two. Do we have any, what else would we suggest?
So just a third one I would say is relying on our senses.
Mm,
That's one of my favorites where it's just like use your 5 senses. So if it's having like lavender, a diffuser with lavender oil or a candle that you like and just having that going. Taste, you can get something that you really enjoy, like a treat, and just enjoy that for a few minutes.
yeah.
And yeah, I think using the 5 senses get overlooked
Yeah.
a lot.
I love
Mhm.
that. Again, that blog that I found from you, which is one of the reasons I was so excited to invite you to be on this, was you were leaning into like using our five senses to de-stress. And when you talked about like the eating, I don't know if anybody else does this, but I'm the person that sometimes when I'm eating, I'm so busy like going that I don't actually
Mhm.
stop and like savor and taste it. And my goddaughter, she's 9 years old. She calls it savorizing. So you know how it's lovely when we can learn little things from them because they're so pure.
Mhm.
And she calls it savorizing. And so she like it takes her like 20 minutes to eat a bite. And while it drives me crazy, I also am trying to learn from her.
Absolutely, yes.
You know?
Yeah, so you can even do like a mindfulness exercise. Like, say, I don't know if it's your thing, everyone has different tastes, but if it was like chocolate ice cream and like,
Mhm.
so when you put a spoonful in your mouth, how cold does it feel? And
Mm,
just take a moment to sit with that. What does it taste like? How rich is the chocolate?
yeah.
And just like really sitting it, savorizing.
Yes. Amazing savorizing. And I'm always like, girl, if you don't come on and finish eating, and I also recognize that I don't even get to 15 bites where she doesn't had 30 bites on a half a bite. You know what I mean? It's two different sides of the coin. But I love it. But I love what you said. Like, asking, well, what is the temperature of this? The other thing I'm learning too is like, there's so many dynamic flavors inside of food, but we don't even really stop to know what they are. We can't
Yeah.
name the difference between cinnamon and nutmeg. You know what I mean? Like, and if I actually stopped and actually savorized, as my goddaughter says it, some of the food, again, I'm allowing my body to slow down enough. I mean, at the end of the
Mhm.
day, when I think about managing stress, it's this intentional space, this intentional behavior to slow down enough and acknowledge what my body is feeling in that moment. And I think that's super huge, whether it's the smell. Even now, my sister, from an old relationship that she used to be in, when she travels now, she takes a candle with her even to a hotel. And those little things are rubbing off on me because they are some of the de-stress behaviors, especially as a digital nomad, that I can take no matter where I am or what I'm doing. I can savorize my food because I'm going to be eating wherever I go. I can take a candle because that's relatively easy to pack, you know?
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
can enjoy a sunset to allow my eyes,
Mhm.
leaning into those senses are a beautiful, I love that as a beautiful way to step into de-stress. That's amazing. I love that so much. Excuse me. Oh, so good. Okay. So while you have, thank you. I pause and say thank you for those three suggestions. And I hope you guys, as you try them out, put them in the chat. I will say, as you know, I talked about not being okay. One of the things that I have been doing as a practice for myself in the moments when I'm not okay, I step away and allow myself to not be okay, whatever that looks like. Whether that means that I need to cry, whether that means that I need to scream, whether that means that I just need a chance to stand here still and close my eyes, or to acknowledge whatever emotion. And a lot of mine is like fighting with my cortisol levels in my body, so a lot of mine is like actually stopping and breathing deeply so that I can reset my heart rate and dealing with the cortisol that's spiking in my body right now or whenever it's happening. I'm inviting you to try these. We don't make the video just for the fun of it. Like, let's be real. We are inviting you to try practical ways for you to manage your stress, not just because it's something you should do. We're doing this because if we don't actually manage our stress, stress is a silent killer. And I'm gonna stop talking in a second and let Jessica speak about that. But stress can literally have us laid out on the ground, our blood pressure in the air. Like it can really affect our bodies in ways that if we're not careful, we can end up dead. So this is important to me, and I invite us to recognize how it affects us so that we can be intentional about changing it. So yeah, that's where this comes from for me. Like, what makes you passionate about helping Black women manage their stress, Jessica?
Yeah, so for me, it's actually my own story,
Mm.
which becoming a mental health professional, and they told us about self-care and making sure that you're taking care of yourself when you're doing this work, but it can get stressful, and if you're not careful, it can creep up on you. And so I myself, at some point when I was a baby therapist, as us therapists say, I wasn't doing the best at it because I wasn't used to it. It was new to me. And I ended up having to take a hard look at my own health and being told by doctors, like, you need to slow down because this is what's happening. And so, just to speak on that a little, chronic stress, unmanaged stress can lead to a lot of different conditions. And ultimately, it can lead to like having a stroke, it can lead to having a heart attack, just hypertension over time. It can actually lead to diabetes too. People may not know that, like that direct correlation. But there's a lot of conditions that come from not managing your stress. And so like you said, you can end up dead. So we don't want that.
Yeah, we don't
Mm.
want that. Like, this conversation is a passion because Black women aren't getting the space to take care of themselves. And in the long run, we're ending up dead. But man, we don't deserve that. Like, we have the biggest hearts, the deepest compassion, the widest level of grace and mercy for people. And yet we are the ones so negatively being affected by that. And that is why it's not just me, but other creators too are addressing. and talking about how, yes, this is a hard topic. This can be one of those topics you're like, I've been waiting for someone to say this and validate me. Or this could be one of those topics where you're like, I'm very scared to acknowledge that I need help. Um and I'm trying to come at it from both sides. Um because at the end of the day, we deserve so much more than that. We deserve to, it shouldn't be a privilege to be soft. It shouldn't be a privilege for Black women to be feminine, to be rested, to live a life that we love and desire. It, none of those should be privileges. All of those should be just based on regularly what we experience. But we're not going to get there if we don't have conversations like these, where we start changing our mindsets around allowing ourselves to finally rest. Like, if we don't think that we actually deserve the rest, that we deserve the space to deal with these things, then we're never going to get there. And so you see, I get on a rant. I get
No, it's so important what you're saying. It just comes right back to like, what do we deserve? And
hmm
just the whole like, I don't have time for that. But it's like you have to make time for that. And you
hmm
deserve rest. You deserve to live a life that you enjoy and can thrive in.
yeah. Yeah, and this is the part of taking it back. I love it. I love it so much. Okay. So then I know, and you talked about a little bit at the beginning, that you do psychotherapy specifically with clients that are in New York, but you also have a virtual offer. Tell us a little bit about both of those things, actually.
Sure, yeah. So the private practice, virtual based in New York, I was at one time seeing clients in Brooklyn, but since the pandemic, it did switch to fully virtual, and I just haven't gone back to the office.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I mean, I am open to all adults, but my clients tend to be young professionals, entrepreneurs, or even like graduate students, college students, a lot of people that need that help with stress management and how do I balance all of this. And what comes with that is the anxiety, like struggling with motivation, your mood. So I do a lot of work around that.
Mm-hmm.
And then with the coaching side, so the coaching business is actually more of like a community-based mental health and wellness resource. But then also I just do the one-to-one, I call them support calls. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's like what type of routine would help you to manage your stress and help you to be able to accomplish your goals. And I mentioned like ADHD before, also like depression. With depression, it's very hard to get out of bed sometimes or to believe in yourself. And so that's where the coaching piece comes in with that. It is more about like, how can we help you to get your goal accomplished, even though you're having these symptoms right now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And when we could acknowledge, I am having these symptoms and I might have to do things slightly different than what I've done before. And that doesn't mean that there's not hope, that I can't accomplish my goals, that I can't move forward. There's, again, space for both. And I think the black and white mindset has been the main thing that's kept us from being able to move forward, because we have been made to feel like there's only this way or that way. And yet, with the emergence of more people, with the emergence of alleviating so much of the stigma of getting help from therapists, from coaches, from professionals who are here to serve us as a person, not just in, you know, uh a work capacity, but as a person, as a human, that we're actually making more space for us to receive self-care in different ways, and to be cared for in the ways that we really need, versus hoping that one of our friends have that kind of background and putting that kind of pressure on them. Like, it's better to actually work with a professional. So yes, I'm glad that you have both of those opportunities. So, you guys, if you are interested in taking advantage of either one of those opportunities, I'm going to put the link in the description, but I'm also going to tell you right now. So it's linktree/thriving lotus oasis. That is Jessica's Linktree where you can get more information about signing up for either her one-to-one therapy sessions in New York. And if you're looking for coaching, you can sign up for her coaching offer there in her Linktree as well. So Linktree slash Thriving Lotus Oasis. Again, I'll have that down in the description. Okay. So in addition to that, I talked about, what it looks like to quit being a strong Black woman, and how this topic of managing stress is it's such a huge part of it. And when I served my clients in this adventure to go from being the strong Black woman to what I'm starting to call Black woman audacity, like we're taking the audacious approach to say, I deserve to be soft, I deserve to be feminine, I deserve to be rested, and we're shifting our lives to really prioritize that. And while I say that, I also acknowledge it is hard. Because if it
Absolutely.
wasn't, we would all be there already.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing: Black women ain't never had, when we want something, we've never struggled with showing up and doing the work.
Mhm.
Sometimes
Yeah.
it's about knowing what is the right work to do, who are the right people to help us, how can we get there as quickly as possible, rather than trying to DIY it and figure it out on our own. And that is exactly what my program helps us do. I remember being in corporate America and feeling unfulfilled, feeling like I was always going above and beyond, but also knowing very deeply that these jobs are not loyal, that they don't care about me, and that it did not matter what I did. I wasn't getting as far ahead as I wanted. And it's a hard place to be. And yet the transition to my audacious self has been me figuring out how to really settle into the fact that while I want to be ambitious and create an amazing life that I want, I have to change mindsets around what work is to me, around how I show up and how I want to be that woman. And so now I can still work hard without it overtaking me, without it uh being the belief that that's as much as I have to offer. Even if I wasn't doing all of this, I still know that I have so much value and so much worth. And that's what allows me to be soft. That's what allows me to be feminine, yet passionate and excited and loving and all of the other things that I am, because I can settle into that as my identity rather than me being a coach. Yes, I love being a coach, but it is not the most important thing about me. So if you've been in this same transition and trying to figure out how to redefine what is the most important thing about you, how do you want to show up? How do you want to create a life that you love, that allows you to be soft and feminine and rested, then I would love for you to check out the opportunity to work with me. So to do that, I have a free call. It is called an exit plan call, and it's really simple. You go to apply.yourdreamstrategist.com. You're going to share a little bit about your story, and then we're going to get on a call and we're going to work through what that plan looks like right there on the call. And then if it's good for a good fit for us to work together, then we'll talk about, getting into my program. But at the end of the day, I want you to recognize that both Jessica and I are here because we understand just how detrimental stress can be to our lives, and there is a space where stress is normal, and we also don't want us to normalize overwork, overstressed, burnt out. We're not normalizing that. There is a space where stress can be well managed, and it can be at a manageable level that allows us to still live a life that we love without having to worry about, is our blood pressure going to be so high that we might not wake up the next day. There is a space for that. Okay. So if you're looking for that, I invite you to take advantage of both of the offers that both Jessica and I have. Um, and and recognize that we are rooting for you. I don't know if you've heard anybody say this lately, but there are people that are on your side. There are people that deeply, I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. There are people that deeply care about you, Black woman. There are people who are fighting for you. We are so passionately with you. And so work with us. We're here to be with you. Allow us to do that. Allow us to serve you. I open that, I say that, and I say, any final thoughts, Jessica?
No, just to say that I hope that some of the tips that we shared today were helpful, and I hope that just hearing that others have been through it, like you're
Hmm.
not alone in maybe feeling stressed out, overwhelmed, and that there are options for you,
Hmm.
that you can work with one of us, you could try some of the tips, and, there's hope. So
There
just
is hope.
leaving it at that. Yeah.
Yeah, there is hope. Yes, there is hope. Come on. So good. I love that. That in itself, if you don't get anything else, get that. There is hope. Okay. Come on. So good. So, you guys, thank you so much for taking a second to watch this video. I've gone this whole video and not introduced myself. So if you're new here, I'm Rashida. I'm a life coach for Black women. I help us make this transition from being a strong Black woman to actually finding our, what I love to call, Black women audacity. This space where we take back our power for us. That we don't have to show up for other people. We can, but it's a choice, not obligation. Now we get to show up for us first and foremost. And so if that is exciting to you, I would love for you to subscribe, share this video with other Black women who are in the same space of life where we're taking back our power for ourselves. And then yeah, after subscribing, come back, watch another video. Make sure you come find Jessica over on our Instagram. There's an amazing community of us growing. Come and participate. We'd love to have you. And then I'll say thank you, Jessica, so much for getting on this call with me today. It's been such a good conversation. I'm glad we're doing
Definitely.
it.
Loved it. Thank you again for having me.
It's my pleasure. And I'm sure we will do it again in the future. So yeah. Okay, guys. Like, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks for watching.